Hi, sir. Good
Hi Pooja,
evening.
good
Hi,
evening.
sir. So, this year's UK Film Festival, I know it centers around the themes of longing and belonging. And as soon as I heard that, I felt like it could be apt titles of your movies. So, I want to know how it strike or did it strike a personal chord with you, the theme this year's longing and belonging?
Yes, I think belonging is a big theme in My Melbourne, the movie that we have proudly presented, and very thrilled that it's going to be screened at the UK Asian Film Festival, such a prolific and a famous and the oldest Asian film
Yeah.
festival in London, I've heard, or in the UK. So that's very fascinating. And belonging, of course, is such a tricky thing because it's like, you've got to belong to somebody before they belong to you. And belonging is also the core theme of My Melbourne, I feel. It's about
Yeah.
inclusivity, really, but inclusivity is also to belong or to,
Belong.
yeah, or to accept. So very thrilled. And yes, I have a lot of resonance with longing as well. So longing and belonging is such a fascinating theme for this festival.
So, in Jews, which is your segment of My Melbourne,
Right.
there's like this very unlikely friendship that forms between one woman who's like this newlywed food blogger, and then there's a woman who's homeless. So, I want to know how you approach portraying this relationship, especially when there are themes like displacement, there's a lot of connection. So, I want to know how your approach in portraying that relationship was.
Well, I was fascinated by the concept of home and belonging. For instance, Jules is the character that lives on the street and she's supposed to be homeless, yet she feels at home. Melbourne is
Yeah.
her. And there is this other character that has a home. She's married into to a guy and has come to live in Melbourne. She has a house. She has a salary. She works. Yet she feels as though she doesn't belong. And here is this very tricky and a very sensitive question about how money is used to control a woman's powers by a
Yeah.
man. And so when these two women come face to face, the question of belonging and home becomes very ironic and relevant and beautiful. And that's what this film is about.
And your films, I've always felt like your stories often travel and have a lot of emotional, like they travel through emotional geographies. So, what does it feel or mean to you to have your film featured in such a diasporic event, which is very far from home yet very rooted to our culture?
I'm very excited to be here, honestly. I'm very excited to be, with everybody here because this is is a certain audience, but it's also a very accepting audience.
Yeah,
It's an audience that has seen both the worlds. The sense of belonging that they have, the sense of identity they have, is very fascinating. They are already very accepting. They have to be because they are not, they have covered either in their lives or in the lives before of the previous generation, they have covered a distance already.
yeah,
So to be talking to an audience, a diasporic audience, is actually to talk to 2x audience, which has both the kinds of experiences. So, and since My Melbourne is particularly is also about
yeah,
some sort of a migratory experience. And I feel migration is the biggest theme of the century for
yeah.
stories. So it all sounds very nice and relevant.
So, usually your stories, the ones that are my favorites, are all with they all reflect about inner journeys and talk about inner journeys. But here, there's also a lot of external identity where there's race, there's class, there's displacement. So, I want to know, was that like a whole new muscle for you to like flex or start into?
Yes, I think the experience of making my Melbourne was very enchanting for me. It broadened my horizons for sure. For instance, one of the
Yeah,
things I saw is the gay parade while I was there in Melbourne while they were filming. I've not directed the film, I've just creatively directed the
yeah,
film. But when I saw the gay parade, I saw people of extremely diverse genders exhibiting themselves, and for me to understand and accept people of so many different types
Yeah.
was broadening of my horizon, and
Also, yeah.
say
Yeah,
go
no,
on.
sir, continue. No, I was just asking since you were talking about broadening your horizons, this is also your first anthology. So I wanted to know how it shaped your perspective in approaching your story. Like, I
Um,
think it would be different, like completely different, right, sir?
yeah, it was very nice to see, what Kabir does in his story. You know, all except for me have also directed the films. I have not directed.
Yeah,
Arif has
yeah,
directed the film that I have kind of curated, but it's nice to see how Kabir handles a story, because I've seen the growth of that story into the film, and then after that, what he thinks about what he's done. So it's
yeah,
also nice to see a filmmaker's journey up close and personal, because usually filmmakers, directors never get to work with other directors.
yeah.
We might be friends, but we'll
True.
never get to,
Get to
see.
work, yeah.
Similarly with Rima and Honor, just to see how they behave, what they catch first, what are the things
Hmm.
about the story that they try to figure out first, and what is it that they leave for later. All those things were quite
Yeah.
interesting.
One question I have to ask you before my time gets over. So I know that you've referenced the balcony scene from the Romeo and Juliet to be one of your favorites, like in many of the interviews. So and when I read that, so what I felt was your movies, there's Tara and Ved where they have the scene in the bus. Then there's in the Rockstar, there's a scene where there's a train window that's like separating them. So I wanted to know if you as a filmmaker deliberately choose these kind of tensions between characters.
Well, I feel there is, many things that one does as a filmmaker is subconscious. And over a period of time, I realized that there are so many scenes in my films which depict balconies and windows. And,
Yeah,
so I realized that there's been the influence of the balcony sequence in Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is particularly very inspiring for me, but that particular sequence of the balcony, of course, is a famous sequence. It has inspired many people and also me. So I see that in many of my films, yes. I don't do it deliberately. I just feel that it must be a very interesting divide uh,
yeah.
between two people.
Just my last question now, since with the digital age, all your films are, they have these meme cultures, there are dissections, there are discussions about layered points, so things that we might not notice in the first thought. So do you involve in like the digital afterlife of the movie, or you just let it go once it's out to the audience?
I usually let it go once it's out to the audience. Because I don't deliberately let it go. The decision is actually to start doing something else. And when
Else,
one
okay.
starts doing something else, then one is not as involved with the movie that they were making earlier. And also, I feel that um, there is a thrill in dissecting a movie and talking about it, and
Yeah,
posting reels about it and talking about it. And there is another thrill, which is a completely different experience, which is just watching the film. Sometimes you will see that even in the social media, that the people that do this or that are not the same. There are so
yeah,
many people that are on the fan pages of so many film personalities that actually don't see the films of those
yeah,
makers
that's,
or
yeah,
actors. It's so fascinating. They just want to
yes,
engage with them. That's the thrill. But I'm more interested in those people that actually want to watch the film.
yeah. So, finally, just one question. Kerala, I'm from Kerala, so all fans in Kerala, we have heard a possible collaboration with Fahadh Faasil soon. So, anything up for like a little crumbs for us fans or anything, which I
Well,
know it's
not
still in
yet.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, it's not yet. It just I'm not sure about that, and that's anyways was slated for later. I'm doing another film now, so
Okay.
that's the film that I'm really concentrating on.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
All the
So
best.
much. Have a great day. Thank you so much, sir.